Well, it takes someone who wants to get involved first. You have to have an aptitude for learning.
One of the biggest thing I try and tell my new guys is, there's a reason there's 25 guys on the department. If there is anything through the training you see that you're not uncomfortable with, don't hold your head down. Step forward.
What I encourage everyone to do is be excited. What skill set do you bring, and do that, because we all have a different one, and be excited about what you're doing. That's how we actually promote, is if we have our own excitement about it.
That was Bob Kelly, Director of Logan County EMS, Russ Moellering, Logan County Fire Chief, and Raelene Keller, President of the Logan County Community Foundation, each sharing their perspective on the volunteers that make their respective organizations run. Today, we bring you a story of how an anonymous donor helped strengthen collaboration between these three organizations, and how the fabric of one community is held together through the everyday dedication of these leaders, their organization's volunteers and paid staff, and countless other community stakeholders, all working for the common good. In his famous book about community building, The Different Drum, author Scott Peck opens with a bold claim that in and through community lies the salvation of the world. While our national and global problems may seem intractable, a genuine spirit of community and public service is alive and well in communities across Northwest Kansas. In recent episodes of Seeking Context, we have seen teachers, business leaders, music groups, and public officials all striving to make their own communities joyful and productive places to live. Today, we have another story about a commitment to community that was initiated by one anonymous donor who, in the fall of 2022, gave $20,000 to the Logan County Community Foundation, stipulating that the money be used to support first responders in Logan County with training, equipment, or any other unfunded needs. Stay tuned to learn how Bob, Russ, and Raelene think about the volunteerism that underpins the success of their respective organizations, and how this generous gift encouraged closer cooperation and engagement among the people who work to make Logan County, Kansas such a great place to raise families, start careers, retire, and more generally enjoy the good things in life.
A community foundation is a public charity, and basically it is for the purpose of meeting the needs of the community and county, in this case, because it's a county-wide. And then it just has a wide range of donors, and supports other nonprofits. Our community foundation was founded in the end of 2016, and in early 17, I received a phone call that said, "Hey, do you want to be on the community foundation?" And I didn't even know it existed. Mm-hmm. And but what's interesting is I'm part of another nonprofit, and my whole excitement was always, how can it be countywide? How can we take a private organization and make it serve the needs of the community?
The best way that community foundations serve the needs of the community is to listen and engage with community stakeholders, supporters, and potential donors. When the donor that established what would later be called the Responding to Responders Fund first approached the community foundation with a determined yet initially undefined desire to support first responders, the board and staff of the foundation provided education on options for donations, and engaged with local first responder entities to find the best path forward. Raelene describes working together with the donor to find the optimum approach in service to the donor's philanthropic goals.
Well, this individual doesn't live in the county anymore, but it's amazing when there's still the connection and the care that there's a need that gets met. And that's clearly the case in this with this fund. Also, it was kind of a long journey working with this person, and over a couple years, even for them to have trust that their dollars will be spent how they choose for them to be. What was established was it's called a Field of Interest Fund, and so specifically meeting this need. But a community foundation is, again, a vehicle that will fully carry out the desire of the person donating, and regardless of members changing and time, over time. So It was very exciting and rewarding to have someone say, hey, you're doing good work. I want to participate and be a part of that.
The two Logan County organizations designated as beneficiaries of the Responding to Responders Fund are Logan County EMS and Logan County Fire. Bob Kelly describes Logan County Emergency Medical Services.
Logan County EMS was begun as a formal group in the mid-'70s, and it's been a volunteer organization since then up until January of 2022, this year, where we hired our first full-time paramedic.
Really?
And so we actually have 2 full-time people on staff now to help out with daytime call. But we have a great group. We have right now about 27 people in the county, in Logan County, that are part of Logan County EMS. We have 2 ambulances stationed in Oakley and 1 in Winona, 20 miles west. So those 3 ambulances cover the whole county. My wife and I have been part of Logan County EMS for over 29 years.
And Russ Moellering describes the Logan County Fire Department.
Within Logan County, we actually have the City of Oakley Fire Department and the Logan County Fire Department housed in Oakley. Also a part of the Logan County Fire Department is Winona and Russell Springs. So countywide, I think right now we have 11 at Russell Springs, 18 at Winona, and 25 at Oakley.
That's a total of 54 firefighters, volunteers serving Logan County with an age demographic that spans a wide range.
You know, we honestly try and keep it spread out. I kind of laugh. I remember when I was by far the youngest person on the department, and a couple years ago I joked with my wife. I looked across the room and realized that I'd changed the diapers of 2 of them firemen sitting out there. So I noticed the times were changing. But no, I would say, you know, anywhere from low 20s all the way up past what would be normal retirement age for your career. So it is pretty well spread out.
And for Russ, firefighting is a multi-generation family affair.
Probably one of the neatest things I've had since I've been on the department is my dad was on 20 years before the day I started, more or less. And I guess if I'd have waited 1 more year to get our son on, or my son on, we'd each been 20 years apart. So Dad was 20 years and Chase is 19 below me. So it was neat to have that 3 generation on the department for a short time.
Regardless of age, volunteers that work with the fire department or EMS must remain proactive and engaged. Bob Kelly describes what the EMS department is looking for in volunteers.
We're always looking for people who would be community-minded and just looking to help. It takes someone who wants to get involved first. You have to have an aptitude for learning, because you do have to learn. You have to learn the head knowledge. You have to learn skills that you'll use, whether it's extrication out of a vehicle that's been crashed, or moving people out of a bedroom of an old house that is pretty inaccessible. Most homes are not built for EMS cots. You can't
getting those up the stairs, around the corners.
Up the stairs and around the corners and all. And so there are techniques and equipment that you have to learn how to use. And so when they sign up, you know, we got to be up front with them. You know, this is going to be a challenge. It always is. There are very few call outs that are the same. You know, it will always be different. And you think you've seen it all, and you think you've seen it all, and you haven't.
To prepare for seeing it all, volunteers fortunately have access to many training opportunities.
You have to sign up for a class and take, many times it's about a 6-month class, and go through that, pass it, and then pass a state test, pass the national test, and then you are a certified EMT or advanced EMT or paramedic. A paramedic takes, most programs take about 2 years for that. And then, but for an EMT, it's about 6 months.
Okay.
And then once you're certified, you can join a service or be hired.
Fire department volunteers also have to keep up to date with training.
We like to set up a lot of different stations throughout our meetings to where they can see every piece of equipment and actually get their hands on it. We do that for several meetings in a row. A lot of it's ride along for a while just to kind of observe what it's like out on scene.
This is just like using the fire hoses and hooking things up.
Yeah, I mean, how to run the rescue tools. We also run rescue Jaws of Life for Logan County. So with that, there's the air pillows and the jaws, and how to run the pumps and how to fill air tanks, and how to get comfortable with them. Kansas State Firefighters Association puts on several schools every year, basically free of charge. So if you're willing to travel and put in the time, there's guys that are around almost every weekend somewhere putting on training. So
That's really cool.
yeah.
And Russ advises his team to be proactive in learning the skills needed for myriad possibilities when called to duty.
One of the biggest thing I try and tell my new guys is, there's a reason there's 25 guys on the department. If there is anything through the training you see that you're not uncomfortable with, don't hold your head down. Step forward and make sure I know, the assistant chiefs know, your training officers know. If you're not comfortable, I don't want to put anybody in a situation where they can't come home to their family that evening. So
Yeah.
that's one of my biggest is if you're not comfortable, be up front, speak up. Yeah.
A recent wildfire incident brought about by high winds downing a power line highlighted the necessity of this training as well as cooperation among multiple agencies, with even impromptu volunteer farmers driving tractors to stop the spread of the fire.
We kind of had an unexpected last week when all those winds come through, a power line dropped, and when I arrived on scene, I counted 10 tractors with disc, and I know of at least 4 more that showed up. So them getting on the outside and making us a fire break, it pretty much saved us. By the time it was done 5-6 hours later, we had 20 plus trucks from 6 departments out there fighting that wildfire. Countless numbers of farmers bringing tractors and discs. So if we're looking at that kind of support, yeah, it's amazing when something goes down. We had trucks from Sharon Springs, from Wallace, from Leota, from Greeley County. So I think we had 6 different departments. If I'm missing somebody, guys, I'm sorry. Thank you for all your help that day, obviously.
With every call, first responders leave whatever situation they are in to go help the community, and those moments can take a toll on family members.
To an extent, I think it takes more dedication because as busy as life can get, you still know at the drop of the hat. I don't know how many times myself and probably everybody have left my wife at a family gathering or in a crowded restaurant by themselves, and when they get done eating, they have an extra plate and no vehicle to take them home. So.
And Bob Kelly notes that the ever-present threat of being on call can be a source of tension with his wife, Barb.
As with a lot of things, there are conflicts at times, the time conflicts. When you get called out on a Christmas day and your kids are opening presents and that has to be suspended for an hour while you go pick up somebody and take them to the hospital. She understands. It's frustrating at times for her, I know.
Yeah.
But she understands that I'm not the only one on the call, and 1 or 2 other people are leaving their families at the same time to go help someone. And so it's been, if it was that big of an issue, I wouldn't be doing it still after 30 years. So.
One problem affecting Logan County, like it is throughout America, is the fentanyl crisis. Bob Kelly describes how he feels his department and the country can face down this threat.
Education is the key to that. Thankfully, Narcan, naloxone is available. I had someone ask me the other day, because we were paged out, I had a crew paged out to an opioid overdose, and came over the radio that the family had already administered Narcan. And the person came around, but then took more drugs and was unconscious again.
Man.
And you know, we carry Narcan on our ambulances to help with that, and it's amazing how that works to bring people back around and give them another chance at life. Because what an opioid will do is it just suppresses your system to where your body just stops breathing. You know, your heart rate slows way down, and once you stop breathing, then it's just a matter of a few minutes before your heart stops beating. And so this Narcan, when that's administered, it reverses that process and brings people back. There are families in town that have Narcan at their home. You know, it's not a thing that you have to have a prescription for. You can go to the pharmacy and buy Narcan, but it is a sad situation where fentanyl is so much more potent than the drugs of the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, as fentanyl has been. It's a synthetic drug, so it's a manufactured drug. It has its place in the medical field. It helps a lot of people who deal with chronic pain, but it, like all drugs that are abused, it has an abuse potential. And a lot of the other drugs that are bought on the street these days are, they have fentanyl in them unknown to the people who are buying the drugs. And so when they take what they think they're going to get a high off of, fentanyl is in there, and there are some tragic deaths that occur because of that. They're unaware, the people around them are unaware, and you know, as a society, you know, don't know how you legislate it, but just needs to be, the message needs to be out there that you need to be more careful of what you put in your body, what you ingest,
Right.
and to stay away from that. But also there needs to be public education of what to do in a situation that happens like that. Call 911 immediately. You know, start CPR. You know, as a member of the public, as a bystander, you can start CPR. A lot of people, they're so wary about, you know, it used to be, well, you have to do chest compressions and you do mouth to mouth, and I'm not putting my mouth on his mouth or her mouth, and so now it's become, the American Heart Association is teaching people compression only CPR, to where you don't have to get your mouth down on someone, but get their heart, you know, with the compressions, you can circulate the blood that's in their body, and there's still enough oxygen in the blood that it'll circulate to your brain, to your heart, and to the rest of your organs, and keep you alive while an ambulance responds with medical help. So that message needs to get out there.
One Logan County family impacted by the drug crisis is the Kellers, whose son Connell lost his life to addiction in 2014. Remembering her son, Raelene Keller describes the way her work with the Community Foundation and other organizations has helped her honor Connell's memory with a personal commitment to public service.
He died 8.5 years ago. I think what happens is that we don't want death to be in vain, like a purpose. So what people do often is they want to leave a legacy for someone else in their honor. My mother-in-law is in that position now of, having raised her family here, like she wants to honor her husband and leave something. I think my own experience has been rewarding in the light of community. Well, yeah, that death, I'm going to say that again. I guess you don't want it to be in vain. That you actually seek to do good, to listen to people. I speak at the school a couple times about addiction a year. It's very rewarding for me personally because it feels like it's not in vain. I think we give back however we do. It's easy not to. It's like it's easy to be secluded and draw within. But by giving, by sharing it, specifically about addiction, it's such a needed. When I talk at the school, I mean with the kids, we talk about suicide, and how prevalent depression is, all of the things. So what actually gives someone purpose and worth? And so when you have loss, regardless who it is, right? Can it cause us to go deep within and do good, connect. I think that's probably my greatest purpose is I love when people can connect on the subjects that are of interest to them and supporting them and their journey.
The death of a loved one can devastate a family, but also brings a time of grief and distress to first responders that are part of the community.
That's part of the class that we go through, and to deal with that type of situation, if you've not been in that position before, to be around a person who has died or is dying, it can be very emotional. That works on a lot of people's minds, to do that. We're fortunate that in the state of Kansas we have a foundation. It's called 1033 Foundation, and there's a gal here in town who is a mom, and she's a registered nurse. She has been an EMT in the past, but she's part of this foundation where what they do is they come in after a critical incident and will debrief, and they'll do some counseling, and they'll talk with the people who are having trouble emotionally with a tough situation, a death. Here a few years back, between Christmas and New Year's, we had an accident on I-70. A family was involved, and one of the children passed away because of that situation. And a few days later, we placed a call to the 1033 Foundation, and the next day they had like 6 people in Oakley ready to help people struggling with that situation. The focus of the 1033 Foundation is helping the first responders, and that includes fire, EMS, law enforcement, all of those. They're there to help us to get through those tough times.
As a lifelong minister, in addition to his job as an EMS director, Bob shares how his faith and counseling skills can be helpful in leading his community through difficult times.
I grew up in a preacher's home, And so the church has always been a part of my life from the youngest time. And I've seen how the church has helped so many people, in their lives. I wanted to be a part of that. And so I felt God's calling to do that. When I graduated from high school, I went to Bible college and got a degree in preaching ministry. And that's been over 40 years ago. The church is very understanding and supportive of my involvement in the EMS as well, because they know that I've responded to some of their homes as well at times through the years to take someone to a hospital, and so they're supportive in that, and not every job does support that, but mine does, and I'm appreciative of that. It can be difficult. Sunday mornings, I'm never on call.
The dedication and lifelong service mentality of people like Bob Kelly, Raelene Keller, and Russ Moellering must surely have been a factor influencing the spirit of philanthropy that led a donor to set up a fund that supports these three organizations in their mission to support the citizens of Logan County. And on behalf of Russ, Bob, Raelene, and all of us here at Seeking Context, I would like to extend our collective thanks to a donor who helped illuminate how the spirit of community described in Scott Peck's book, The Different Drum, can come to life in the day-to-day actions of people working for the common good. At the end of his book, Peck closes with the story of a man who discovered the value of community in a weekend workshop, but was conflicted about the implications for his own life. Quoting from that man's experience, "I feel torn apart. On the one hand, this has been a most moving experience for me. I have personally benefited from it more than I dreamed. I am very glad that I came and surprisingly sad to be leaving. But as I think about what has happened here, about the essence of the experience and what you are trying to do, I cannot help but conclude that it is really about nothing more than love. And how on earth can I go back to my board of directors and sell them on love?" And now quoting from Peck's last line of the book, "That man's problem is ours and yours. It is our task and yours to sell the world on love." The one problem I have with the conclusion of this book is that love really isn't a concept that can be sold. It is a value that has to be lived. And when lived well, it can infect others and repair broken communities. You can live love the way that Raelene Keller honors the memory of her son leading the Logan County Community Foundation. You can live love the way that Bob Kelly has pastored his church and led the Logan County EMS department for the last 40 years. You can live love the way that Russ Moellering cares for his team of volunteer firefighters, inspired by his father who served the department before and now his son who is following in his own footsteps. You can live love the way that 10 farmers got in their tractors, hooked up discs, and drove to the scene of a fire to help protect the community and help the fire department. And you can live love the way that an anonymous donor who doesn't even live in Logan County set up a fund to benefit first responders, and in so doing brought three organizations closer together in their efforts to serve the public. You know, this book, The Different Drum, was written in 1987, but I think the theme song to the book was written 2 years prior for a movie called Back to the Future by a man named Huey Lewis and his band, Huey Lewis and the News. Don't take money, don't take fame, don't need no credit card to ride this train. It's strong and it's sudden and it's cruel sometimes, and it might just save your life. That's the power of love. Well, that's it for 2022. As we head out into the new year, I hope that you are out in the world seeking context on the people and things that find their way into your lives, and that you are living life with a spirit of love in a way that can infect others and repair communities and heal this broken but beautiful world. From all of us here at Seeking Context, I'm your host, Justin Wieland. Love is a curious thing. Make a one man weep, make another man sing. Change a hawk to a little white dove. More than a feeling, that's the power of love. Don't need money, don't need fame, don't need no credit card to ride this train. Strong and it's certain and it's cruel sometimes, but it might just change your life. That's the power of love.